Hello and welcome to Creating Canon with your hosts AJ Hamilton and no Christmas presents.
Like,
none for you.
no, wait, hold on. I just want to be clear about this. That means, like, I don't get any gifts, or I have no presents on Christmas, like, you can't see me, and neither can anyone else.
You have a Christmas past and you have a Christmas future, but
no Christmas presents.
Yes, exactly.
That sounds fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting you anything.
That's fine. I didn't get you anything.
All right, perfect.
This gift that I have wrapped here was for me.
Yeah,
to me.
All right.
From me.
Why does it say to AJ with love, Nicholas C. Pump and Circumstance? Why does it say that?
It doesn't say that. It actually says
Nicholas C. Pappas.
That's pretty good. Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
For that.
You know, what I'm proud about is
Yeah.
that we didn't plan that. If we planned that, that would have been really pathetic.
Exactly.
The fact that it just sort of existed.
We're naturals at this, man.
I'm a fucking professional.
Yeah, that's right. And I am as well, too. All right, everybody.
Oh,
well, our gift to you, our present to you.
Oh, my God.
Is this episode.
Yeah, well, first of all,
yes.
For those of you who celebrate Christmas.
That's true.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
For those of you who don't celebrate Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Indeed.
For those of you who celebrate Hanukkah, Happy Hanukkah.
Indeed.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Yes. Happy New Year soon.
Happy New Year.
Yes.
Which we will have a New Year's episode, because why the fuck not?
Exactly.
But yeah, we are going to talk today about Bob Clark's gift to the fucking world. 1974's Black Christmas, which is, and I think I mentioned this on the other episode when we were talking about going to watch this movie.
Yes.
This is easily one of my top 3 favorite horror movies of all time. One of my top 3 favorite Christmas movies of all time, and probably my top 10 movies of all time.
That's crazy.
I love this movie. It is so good.
Yeah. It was all right.
Well, I want to ask, so I think in some ways this is going to be like because I don't want to spoil this movie if you've never seen it.
Right. Yeah.
I basically want to say,
definitely don't.
Just go watch it.
Because me personally, I was blown away by the ending.
Great. Well,
absolutely.
Oh man, that makes me so happy. Okay,
you
know what? I'm just going to read the plot summary.
Go for it, sir.
Sorority girls are haunted by phone calls in this slasher flick that created nearly every horror trope imaginable. If you haven't seen it, see it. Like right now, go turn this off and go see it.
Yeah. Oh man,
Black Christmas, 1974.
And in that vein, even if you haven't stopped to go and watch it, we are going to try our best to avoid spoilers.
Be fairly spoiler free.
Yeah, we might talk about some of the aspects, but we're not gonna spoil the big reveal at the end and the whole climax of the movie.
Yeah.
So this is probably safe if you want to maintain the mystery of a 46-year-old movie.
I can't believe this movie is 46 years old.
It aged very well, I would say.
Yeah, it does not feel old at all. Other than some of the clothing and some of, like, small word choices here or there.
Yeah.
And the telephone numbers not being actual phone numbers,
right.
Being the old exchange code.
Yes, exactly. With the 2 or 3 numbers at the beginning of the...
Yeah. Like FE, whatever. Or, that's a joke in this movie.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Other than that, I think you could play this to somebody, and the lack of cell phones.
Indeed.
They would probably assume that it was from today.
Yeah.
In a really interesting way. I do want to talk about the director really quick, Bob Clark.
Go for it.
Bob Clark is was a fascinating director to me because his 3 earliest films were this one movie called Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
Okay.
Which was a zombie movie. It was interesting, but it was fun. It was fine.
Okay.
It was very low budget. Then he made this movie called Death Dream, which was actually super fascinating about a man coming home from the Vietnam War.
Oh.
And when he comes home, he's a corpse that's slowly starting to rot.
Holy shit.
But he's, like, alive.
Okay.
And it's sort of a zombie-ish movie, but what the movie's really about is it's using a horror trope to tackle the idea of what PTSD is.
Oh my God.
One of the first movies to do that. Then he made Black Christmas. He made Porky's.
Yeah.
One of the original sex comedies.
Of course.
So if we talk about Cannon films.
Boy, he is really reinventing genres here.
Seriously. Then he wanted to make a movie called A Christmas Story. Like, You'll Shoot Your Eye Out, Ralphie, A Christmas Story.
Oh my God.
And they said, we'll let you make that, but you have to make Porky's 2. So he made Porky's 2 the next day.
Awesome.
He made Turk 182. He made Loose Cannons, which is a Gene Hackman, Dan Aykroyd movie. He did Rhinestone, which is the Dolly Parton, Sylvester Stallone movie.
Okay.
But then towards the end of his career, it got really sad, actually, which Baby Geniuses...
Wait, why is that sad? That's an amazing movie.
Shut up. Super Babies, Baby Geniuses 2, and The Karate Dog.
One of my top 10 favorites.
I know, seriously. And then he tragically died in a car accident.
Oh, Jesus.
And I think he was going to make a sequel to A Christmas Story.
I had heard that. Well, they eventually did.
Well, they made one long before.
Okay.
He died, but then they were going to make another Christmas Story.
Interesting.
Directed by him.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the writer was Roy Moore. Not that Roy Moore.
Roy Moore. Gotcha.
Or not that other Roy Moore either.
Yeah. None of those other Roy Moore.
No,
it was specifically this Roy Moore.
Roy Moore.
Got it.
Yes. He didn't really write much other than this movie called The Last Chase.
Okay.
And we should also talk about... Well, you know what? We'll stop there.
Okay.
I mean, I've talked about how much I love this movie.
Yeah.
So I just want to know what you thought.
Like I said, and I'll reiterate it, it's aight. No, I didn't know what to expect, because if you've ever been shown a movie from a person who loves that movie, you have to...
It's so hard.
I mean, you have to worry about... I mean, first of all, you got the person, even out of the corner of their eye, they're watching you hoping that they expect, that you are going to react to all of their favorite parts of the movie. I hope I didn't disappoint.
No, you were great. Well, I also tried not to look at you very much.
I appreciate that. It does freak me out a little bit when I catch you looking at me. But really, again, I didn't know what to expect. I went into this. I got caught up in the bustle of it at the beginning. I really attached to the characters kind of immediately. I was engaged. It was suspenseful as hell. It kept you guessing, which...
That's awesome.
You know that it kept me guessing.
Oh man, I
probably accused every single male character and some of the female characters
at least twice
of being the murderer.
The murderer at the end.
Yes.
Which I found delightful, which was really fun for me. And that's actually how I knew you were into the movies.
Oh yeah.
You were... Because I know
my mind was working.
I know you, and it was driving you up a tree that you couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, because you look at a mystery, and not that you want to ruin it for yourself, but you kind of want to feel clever.
Yeah,
and you want to say, "Oh my God, I got it! I did! I knew it was him! I called it!" Or I knew it was her. We don't know. I'm not going to tell you. Who is it? But every single bit of the story was so well done and so intricate that literally the whole movie felt like a red herring. You know what I mean? Like, in a good way. In a fucking amazing way, because it's giving you all these pieces. And this is the difference between some other mystery movies and this movie, is that it plays it so perfectly that it gives you all of these red herrings and all of these possibilities.
Yeah.
And at the end, it sort of throws it all out, or it... I mean, I hope that's vague enough, but it throws it all out, and then it reveals to you what it's going to reveal, and you're not disappointed that none of that panned out. You're like, oh my God, that is a new reality that I didn't even think about. Oh my God. Yeah, no. Yeah. So that's my feeling. I'm still jonesing from it. It's
so
really,
cool.
really good.
One of the things I noticed in your note taking is I think you maybe took like 4 notes throughout the whole movie.
I didn't want to miss a thing.
Yeah, because you were just locked in, which I thought was... And that was actually an interesting thing, too, is every note I took was like, oh, look at this shot. Oh, look at this juxtaposition. Sure. Oh, look at this moment. Like,
well, because you've seen it 20 times, right?
I mean, I've seen it, not that many.
Yeah, okay.
But I think this is probably... If I was trying to count in my head, this is probably somewhere between like my 10th and 13th viewing.
Fantastic.
And I've been very lucky in that I've seen this movie in theaters, I think 4 times.
Awesome. On a print.
Right? Yeah, like on a 35 millimeter print.
That's awesome.
Which is so cool. And this movie in theaters is
even more tense, I'm sure.
Even more tense. Like, it's interesting that a whole crowd of people who have also seen this movie, probably 100 times,
no doubt,
they're quiet. They don't make a peep. They don't make a noise. They are locked in.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend too loves this movie, which she's not exactly. Horror movies are hard for her because so many horror movies make women fodder. Women are stupid. I mean, it's the writing of these kinds of movies.
Sure.
Especially A House Full of Sorority Girls.
Right. Which are typically, unfortunately, dumbed down quite a bit in more recent and more and less thoughtful movies, I would say.
And those tend to become hard for her because she feels just like this is one of those like where we as white straight men have a privilege of like we can watch those things and we can sort of like
set it aside, or
and like it doesn't, and we can separate that kind of stuff from what that does to us on a level of constant degradation.
Sure.
But she loves this movie. She thought this was great, and when she saw it for the first time, she was just as locked in and like ramped up to the whole thing as you are.
An interesting point to that, actually, one of the few things that I did write down, almost in complete relation to what the typical degradation of the female character was, and it was frustrating to me for a while, actually, is that there is a point where Jess, our main character,
played by Olivia Hussey, Romeo and Juliet. Olivia Hussey,
she is amazing in this.
So good, like good. That Romeo and Juliet, the Zeffirelli Romeo and Juliet, which Zeffirelli is a fun little canon connection because he did an Otello for Cannon Films.
Exactly, but she's amazing and such a strong character, and yet in the script there is a line where she is talking to her boyfriend, who they are having a tiff a little bit.
Played by Keir Dullea.
From 2001, A Space Odyssey.
Yep.
And
he was the biggest star in the movie at that time. It was like him and Olivia Hussey were huge stars.
Yeah, exactly.
For this time period.
So they are having a bit of a tiff, and she says to him, she says, listen, when you told me, when we met, that you wanted to be a concert pianist, I told you that I had a few things that I wanted to do with my life. And I still want to do them. And that
you wanted to know
TBD,
what they were?
That, like, we'll leave it as a question mark until we get to the second pass of this script, but we never did, and we didn't improv one on the day. Like, I just... To connect with her a little bit more,
that's interesting.
I wanted some sort of character development in that. Did you ever think about that?
Never really bothered me in that.
I mean, I'm sure, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's conversational.
So
it's conversational, but it's also not, it doesn't give her any specificity in the thing that she's going for in school or in life in general.
What her hopes and dreams are.
Right, exactly. It just was funny misstep in all of the whole thing. It was very tightly written, too. The whole thing is not... extraneous, I feel. There's not a lot of explanations that are needed, but that one thing tweaked me a little bit wrong.
So interesting because I've actually, what I've loved about this movie from the very first time I saw it is how incredibly feminist I feel like she and that relationship is.
Yes.
This movie takes place in 1974. There's a whole abortion plotline where she's like, I want an abortion, and I don't care what you have to say. And he's like...
My body.
And he's like, well, I get to say, you're selfish, you can't do this, you're going to marry me. And she's like, no, that's not what's going to happen.
Yep. I don't feel like it.
That's not the thing that's going to make me happy.
Yeah.
Which I've always found, like, super feminist. And super, super progressive.
Yeah.
For the time period.
Yeah, her attitude and her personality are incredibly feminist. That one line bugged the hell out of me because I was like, no, say that she wants to be an artist. Say that she wants to be a writer. I don't care. Just give her something.
That's so interesting.
I don't know. It was just a slight oversight, I feel. Just giving him specificity and then not giving her any.
Well, that is a fascinating thing when you think about the movie. The only people who have real specificity of what they're studying is, in fact, he is the only one.
Pretty much, yeah, you're right.
And that's only because I think we see him play.
Yes.
Which is part of the plot of the movie.
Exactly.
And nobody else's career choice or major or reason for being in school
of course
is part
not.
of the movie.
Yeah. Just she brings it up, then she doesn't expound
no, I get it.
on
No,
it. It's funny. Let's actually, though, talk about the rest of the cast.
Yo, totally.
Because we listed the two toppers.
Yep. We do have another canon connection a little more directly.
Sure.
We have a character named Barb.
Yeah.
Who is sort of the comic relief in the movie.
Yeah.
She's drunk through a lot of the movie. She had the one line that she says to her mom, which was that?
It was, "You're a real gold-plated whore, mother."
Yep, which I laughed. That makes me laugh every single time.
It's in the background. It just,
yeah, you just sort of hear it.
Yeah.
And I also really enjoy, when she gives the cop the phone number to the place, she says,
so good.
She says it's, I don't remember the numbers, but she was like, it's fellatio
21348.
And he looks at her and she's like, it's a new
exchange.
It's a new exchange. FE. And he's like, okay, how do you spell that? Fellatio? And he writes it down, which then sets up this great moment.
Pays it off like halfway through the movie.
Where that cop has to give the phone number to another cop. And there's 3 cops in the room. There's the 2 cops having a conversation. And a third who's just laughing so hard he's crying in the corner. Was the one cop's like, what is this? And he's like, it's fellatio. And he's like, do you know what is that? It's a new exchange. It's a new exchange. Where'd you hear that? From the girl from the sorority house. Fellatio. Yeah, she gave it to me earlier today in the precinct, right in the middle of everything.
And the dude in the background, I think his name's Buchanan, is just dying like it's the first take and he just got handed this paper.
Yes.
I swear to God.
His reaction is so real
so
and
genuine.
natural.
Oh my God.
And that scene lasts for like 3 minutes and they're making a fucking blowjob joke that is so funny.
Yeah.
So
simple.
So simple. And what I really like about it, too, is the joke is not at any expense of a female character.
Yep.
It's at the expense of the male cop.
The
older, dumb cop.
Yeah. Sergeant Nash.
Who was in Porky's.
Right. Doug McGrath.
Doug McGrath.
Yep.
He was in Porky's. He was in Ghosts of Mars.
Nice.
Outlaw Josie Wales. He was the coach in Porky's, which there's another classic scene in a Bob Clark movie where just a bunch of people are sitting around laughing. But yeah, it's so funny. But anyways, we didn't actually say who it was. Barb is played by Margot Kidder.
Yes.
Lois Lane from the Superman movies, including Superman 4, which is a canon film.
Ah, there you go.
Here we are.
And the Amityville Horror.
Nice. One of the other cops in that scene is John Saxon.
Oh, man. He is so good.
He is one of those actors who just... I don't feel like he gets enough credit for the work he did.
He doesn't.
He was in Nightmare on Elm Street 1, 3, and 7, and he is so good in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. He was in Enter the Dragon, and he was also in Tenebrae, which is a giallo film.
Okay. Which this has quite a bit of feeling of.
Yeah. We should talk about the cinematography. Let's go through but let's finish the cast, though.
Yeah. Oh, I just wanted to say about John Saxon. He has such an interesting, subtle charm to him. He's serious, but he has a good smile, and he's just, I mean, he just is a really solid guy. I don't know.
And what this movie does really interestingly is we are in a scene that is high ramped up tension where like your shoulders are starting to hurt.
Yeah.
We cut straight to a moment of extreme comedy, and then we're right back into shoulders hurting tension. And John Saxon does a really great job of, even in certain scenes.
Yeah.
There's a scene in particular where he's walking around the house and everything's serious. He's like, where's this person? Where's that person? Who's this? Who's that? They're walking down and he's like, and is there anyone else in the house? And they said, Barb. And he was like, is she the
girl who gave us the phone number?
And the other girls started laughing. I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, we'll just leave her upstairs.
Yeah.
And not, interrupt her. And it was just such a really
great character moment.
Fun moment.
Yeah.
That I think portrays a kind of humanity, perhaps.
Well, he's a great cop.
Yeah.
Like, all business, but he knows how to be personable.
He plays a cop in Nightmare on Elm Street 2, by the way.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Or not 2, not Nightmare on Elm Street 2,
1
but as well.
Also. Yeah. Who else?
We have Andrea Martin.
Yeah.
Who was in Hedwig and the Angry Inch, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Sort of known for SCTV.
Right. She's also in Difficult People, if anybody's ever checked that Hulu show out. Oh, brilliant.
I haven't watched that yet. I should.
You should.
Put that on my list.
Oh, she's
but
fantastic
I don't watch TV.
in it. Get out of here.
And then there's a den mother named Mrs. Mack. Andrea Martin plays the den mother in the remake of Black Christmas, the 2006 remake.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, which again is a terrible movie. We're not going to talk, just so you know, we're not going to talk about any of the Black Christmases, the remakes.
No, because there's no reason to compare.
And it's just
run
unfair.
Yes.
To either of them.
I can imagine. Yeah, exactly.
Just unfair.
In this one, Mrs. Mack is played by Marion Waldman.
Yep.
Who was in what?
She did a movie called Phobia, and she also did another movie called Deranged, Confessions of a Necrophile, in 1974.
All right.
That was based on the Ed Gein story. Ed Gein, who, of course, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was based on, as well as Psycho.
And all those murders.
And all those real murders in real life.
That's,
The writer and co-director is a man named Alan Ormsby.
Huh.
Alan Ormsby...
I don't know him personally.
You don't know him personally?
No.
Well, Alan Ormsby wrote Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things and Death Dream.
Oh, wow.
And starred in Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, Bob Clark's 2 first movies. So there's a little interesting factoid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boy, this whole cinema thing is really
I know
incestuous.
Yeah, and I know way too much.
Yeah, you do.
'Cause I didn't even
That's why you don't watch TV.
Yes,
You're just looking,
I'm just too busy,
you're on IMDb.
Exactly, figuring out like, ooh, what is this? What is that? Yeah, this movie, so...
I mean, it's really hard to not give anything away.
Yeah. Although, the things we should mention... This sort of invented the idea of...
a couple of really big...
huge horror tropes.
Yeah, horror tropes.
One being... So this is where we're going to get into slightly spoiler territory.
Right.
One being the killer point of view.
Okay.
Some people say Peeping Tom started that in the early 60s.
Okay.
I would argue that, like, Peeping Tom isn't what I would consider, like, a traditional slasher the way this is.
Right.
Just like when people call Psycho a slasher, I'm like, There's
like 2...
It's not quite the same.
Yeah.
It's... I could see what you're saying, but it's not right. You know, to me, it's...
Yes. It definitely is a genre unto itself.
Yeah.
And I think that that both Peeping Tom and Psycho are both more suspense than slasher.
And they're sort of like prototypical slashers where I think, like, Black Christmas is what really started the modern slasher.
Yeah. And you gotta have a body count. Come on.
You gotta have a body count. This movie invented, and this is, again, spoiler, the whole idea of the collars inside the house.
Right.
Which
still doesn't give it away.
Which is crazy.
Fascinating.
Yes, it doesn't give it away. And also, too, what I really find, this is how you know it did it well, is I've seen that trope so many times that now when I see it, I'm like, oh, that's so fucking dumb. The first time I saw this movie, I was like,
right.
Oh my God.
Well, they do such an interesting job of laying out all of the process of the tracing of the call.
Yeah.
So you are already ramped up, even if you know the secret to it. It's not just a cop sitting behind a computer saying, "Oh, we traced it. Cop, the thing is coming." This is multiple people being involved in this, and I mean, he's a very small part, but I loved the dude running around the call center needing to physically find the mechanical number that was being called. That was such an interesting aspect of those few scenes.
Well, it ramps up that tension in such a way because, like, the computer screen is inherently boring.
Yeah.
It's really hard to make that exciting if it's just a bunch of people. And they try to do it with, like, you know, a line going to, like, a city to a city to a city. Yeah. Like, I've seen that in, like, 100 movies.
Oh, they're bouncing the call.
Yeah. But this one, very specifically, to see a man physically running around, all this machinery, like, looking up, freaking out, like, knowing there's a time limit.
Yeah, he has stakes as well.
That pays off.
Yeah, it really does.
And the other big trope that I feel, well, the sorority girl trope.
Yeah, of course.
Is here. And then the other trope, too, that I think this does, and again, spoiler, is the whole, you see that car, there's a cop in that car, and he's watching, he's going to take care of you, cut to that car later, and the cop is dead.
They've already gotten to him.
And that, I think, too, even though I feel like you knew it was going to happen, when that reveal happened, I kind of looked over at you, and I felt like you were still kind of surprised.
I wasn't surprised. I was in awe of the technique that they had done. Like, it definitely is hard to put yourself into a place where the originator of a trope gives you the same excitement as the first time you saw it in any movie.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I saw it first time in the 90s, right? But in this one, the pan up, the little glint of the eye of the cop that you knew was already dead, but the low angle and the pan up to him and the realization is just masterful.
Because it's from the outside of the car. So when you first come across and you start panning up, you start with
because they're calling him
top of the cop's head,
right? And
it moves up forehead, eyes, nose, mouth, and he's just sort of looking in the distance, and then it pops up, and you see that his throat is slit.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's
right. I mean, it's all about the execution, and if you do it well, it will pay off.
Talk to me a little bit about, because you had mentioned it like 9 times during the movie, the cinematography.
Yes, there were fascinating shots. First of all, through windows. There were such
beautiful shots through
such
windows.
Good, like, establishing shots, of course, but there's also these character shots through the upstairs window of, like, cars driving away, or
like when we're up in the attic part, right?
Yeah, from wherever, from a girl's room or from the attic or wherever we're viewing it from. But then it pulls out and it reveals something to you, that it continues along the story, even if it's not related to what is happening outside. And then there was this one beautiful shot where all of these people come in to the house and they're talking, and just from their body language, you can tell what they're planning to do or what has taken place within that mini scenelet. And then they start exiting out the house, and it's one shot. That's another thing, is the oneers.
Yes,
the
so
subtle
many
oneers.
shots.
They're like the one that we talked about when they're laughing at the piece of paper. It's got Buchanan in the background of the shot. It's got John Saxon in the foreground of the shot. And then he laughs at the piece of paper, gets up, crosses camera, and then it follows him out to the hallway to have him confront Nash about the foolishness.
And then Nash comes over.
And I think he sits back down, and it's all one goddamn shot.
And in that shot, too, the camera sort of, like, moves again.
Yes.
From just Nash and Saxon a little over, so you can see Buchanan in the background of the shot again. And then, yes, it follows Saxon back down to the seat.
Amazing.
And there's probably, if I had to guess, I should do this one of these times while I watch this movie, just count how many oneers there are that are over a minute long. If I had to guess, there's probably 20 in this movie.
I would say
moments where it's just like a minute long of like the camera moving, following a person from room to room to room, up hallways, down hallways.
Yeah.
There's so many shots of just empty hallways and shadows.
Yeah. And it's almost like a Where's Waldo. You have to.
Yes.
It's so fascinating to notice the shadows, because
so many shadows in that distance.
Sometimes if you are paying attention to the foreground, you're paying attention to what you should be paying attention to. It's almost subconsciously that you realize another being may be, like, have a presence in the room. It's haunting. It's a wonderful use of light, and I want to get to the POV shot, but there are also just simple close-ups where it's a 2-shot of people. I don't know why, but they were shot beautifully. They were shot just expertly layered.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Well,
I don't know.
There's the shot where Jess has just told her boyfriend, Peter, that she's pregnant, and he's playing at the piano, and she starts walking away. She crosses this room that has to be like, 30 feet long?
40 feet, yeah.
And she is in the foreground. We have a good close-up of her, and in the distance, he's at the piano, and they're having this, and they sit with this shot for 30 seconds, 40 seconds as they're conversing.
Yeah.
And it is such a beautifully composed shot. There's another scene where John Saxon is interviewing the 2 girls.
He's in Claire's room.
Yes. Where he is
looking at the picture of Chris, I think.
And he's just kind of, And the two, Barb and Jess, are out of focus as he's asking all these questions.
And they just shaking their heads, really, like, so you can see them, but their reactions, their face doesn't matter.
And and that's the interesting thing is, like, what matters is the questions he's asking.
Yes.
And then it sort of rack focuses to them when he asks one specific question.
Yeah.
And we need to see their reaction.
Exactly.
There's also a really great long shot of when the first time they get a phone call and Barb is like, the moaner's back, and all the girls converge and hang around this phone. And it's this really long shot of like 10 of the girls standing around the phone, moving one to one to one to one to one. Oneer, just a big oneer, while they listen. And it also, and like, it both starts and ends, I believe, as on a close-up of the receiver of the phone. That is just also yet, like, just another beautiful shot.
And we got to give credit to the cinematographer.
Yes.
He is Reginald H. Morris. He worked on Porky's 2, A Christmas Story, Turk 182, and Loose Cannons.
All Bob
Clark films. And he actually developed a rig that he essentially is the stand-in for the killer in the POV shots.
Yes.
And so he just hooked it up to his shoulders so that he could look through the camera, but he could also climb up and down to the attic, down to the rooms, go into rooms, come out of rooms, and you're fascinated by it, but then you see two hands in the shot of the person who is casting the shadow on the ground, and you're like, oh my God, where is the camera?
There's numerous times.
It almost creates
also when they're panning across glass.
Yeah. Yes.
There's so many, and you could see reflections of lights in the glass, but you cannot see the reflection of the camera.
No, it's just a wonderfully shot movie. And this guy, I mean, to almost create the idea that there is no camera, that you are within this reality, is kind of horrifying when it loses the artifice of a movie. When it loses the movement, the typical when it's this fluid.
You feel so in it.
Yes.
You feel so in it. And you feel like the killer's POV shots, and then it kind of switches to Jess's shots at the end.
Yes, of course.
And that is not a
spoiler. Or anything. That's just a choice, I think.
Yeah, but it is so fucking fascinating.
Yeah.
Because you do feel like you're moving through the space in a really true and honest way that doesn't feel, how do I phrase this?
Contrived, I suppose?
Well, I was going to say it doesn't feel cinematic, but that's kind of wrong because it feels so cinematic.
Yes.
But it doesn't feel cinematic in the way where it's like, I notice the camera movement as much as I notice the camera movement after I've seen it 9 times. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, wouldn't you say that the goal of a movie is full immersion?
Well, I think it depends on the movie.
Of course.
Because I think some movies truly want you to be sort of wowed by
in awe of the art.
Yeah. Because, like, I love Quentin Tarantino films, but there's definitely times in Quentin Tarantino films where I know Quentin Tarantino is like, hey, did you see that fucking camera move? That was awesome. You should masturbate to that. Whereas, like, Spielberg, in almost every Spielberg movie, does a series of oneers that you would never notice unless someone pointed it out to you.
Sure.
I don't think either is necessarily better or worse than the other.
Right.
It's just a different style of filmmaking.
And I suppose it is the emotional response that the director or the cinematographer or both desire in that moment. So, yes, but in this one, I think it ramps up the tension. It increases the horror and the uncertainty of the audience, as it does for the characters.
Yes, I think that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, and so we really live with the girls in this sorority house while they are being terrorized by this mystery.
And we also, I think, get an interesting lay of the land through the eyes of the killer.
Yeah.
Well, and I think this goes back to that interesting shadow stuff, too, is because when we see certain shots of him watching them, what can become frustrating in certain movies when there's shadows in the background is you're like, why can't the girl see the shadow?
Right.
But when you see the shots from his point of view, it then becomes clear why they can't see the shadow.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And also, I mean, like I said, there are at least maybe 4 times where you see a shadow in the background while they are having in-depth or concentrated conversations, either on the phone or not on the phone, either with the cops or with each other or something. So it's ballsy of the killer.
Well, you can,
but it's
but you can see why.
You can see
because you do see from his point of view,
right,
that they are enraptured in conversation.
Exactly.
A couple of other really interesting shots. So Claire's the first girl who dies. And I think there's some really interesting shots when she is first murdered.
I guess spoilers, but whatever.
That happens.
I mean, that's
like
very, very quick. Yeah.
Where it's the shot of the killer in the closet with the shadows.
Yes.
And then later on, the multiple shots of Claire in the attic with the bag over her face.
Oh.
Sort of the way it kind of like pops
and
out the window.
Doll.
And the creepy doll in the hand.
Oh, God, man.
And then this movie is filled with interesting juxtapositions. Like we have the obscene phone call with children singing Christmas music.
Yeah.
We have another scene where there's a children's choir, a skull, a glass unicorn, and a character being murdered, all sort of like juxtaposed and slammed against each other. We have these really beautiful and amazing match cuts.
Oh, God.
One in particular is there's a woman who finds out her daughter is dead. She screams, and instead of a scream coming out of her mouth, it's a phone ringing.
And then it cuts to the phone.
The phone. And it is. And there's numerous cuts like that where we move from one place and the sound prelapse in such a way that...
It's called an L cut, technically.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Because you lay in the audio track first, and then it moves up into the video and audio being connected.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've never knew that.
And technically, neither did AJ. I mean, me. Just so we don't give out more misinformation than we already do, we wanted to clarify. The cut we were talking about, of the phone ringing over the woman screaming, transitioning into the shot of the actual phone ringing, would be referred to as a J cut. A J cut is where the audio of the next scene drops in before the visual changes. The L cut that AJ was referring to is when audio from one scene carries over into the following scene. This has been Editing with AJ.
In screenwriting, you call it a prelap.
Ah, I see.
The sound prelapse before the picture changes.
Well, look at us.
That's interesting.
Knowing things.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's interesting that I come from the writing point of view and you come from the editing point of view.
Sure.
And that's sort of the things that we gravitate towards in some ways.
Indeed.
So that's fascinating.
Nice. We're professionals.
We're fucking professionals.
Nope.
Well, I also think it's really fascinating, too, to know that there are two different,
terms
for basically the same thing, depending on what side you're on, pre or post-production.
Absolutely.
That's
very
fascinating.
Nice. Huh.
I do want to talk about Mrs. Mack, who's a fucking comic genius in this.
Oh, my God. She is used perfectly in the time that she is in this, but I would take her throughout the entire movie.
She's so good. And there's also a lot of really great acting moments for everybody. One moment that I want to talk about particularly was when Claire's boyfriend, Chris, is playing a hockey game.
Oh, man.
And Jess calls him over, and he's the goalie, and he's got a face mask on, and she's starting to talk to him about this, that, and the other thing of where's Claire? She went home. Da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Jess finally says, no, she didn't go home. No one's seen her.
Her dad is here.
Her dad's here.
He can't find her.
Well, in that moment, he lifts the mask up, and he's just got this panicked, worried face. And it's really interesting to watch him go from completely cool with everything to completely panicked when he needs to be panicked.
Yeah.
It's a great, solid acting choice that I think a worse actor would have gone with the, have you seen Claire? No, what's wrong with her?
Yeah.
Kind of a thing where when you really think about it, he does have no reason to be worried.
No, and he's going to go right back to his game.
Yeah, until all of a sudden he realizes he has a reason to be worried.
Absolutely.
One other thing that I thought was a really fun acting moment, there's a moment where someone says something to piss Barb off, and she does the I bite my thumb at you thing from Shakespeare.
That's right.
Where she doesn't verbally say I bite my thumb at you, she just bites her thumb at somebody. And
Which
Olivia Hussey is standing right next to Margot Kidder when she does that. And Olivia Hussey gives her a look like, ugh. Which I thought was really fun. There's a few things that I kind of want to talk to about at the end, but I also think if I talk about them, it'll be completely spoiler territory. But let's just say that last shot with the last phone call with the credits.
The holding it over the credits. I mean, a long time ago, they didn't have so many credits. They didn't have 1,500 animators. You were done with the credits pretty damn soon. I was still... I don't know if I was even waiting for anything.
Yeah.
But I was sitting still over the entirety of the credits. I was almost holding my breath through the entirety of the credits. And that's how good the ending got me. That's how the reveal and I mean, it's not even the credits. It's only the credits. It's the pan
out of the house.
Pan out of the room.
The window. Yeah.
And then to the room.
That's right. Yeah,
to
absolutely.
the room, to the other thing, and
then upstairs, to the thing, to the thing. Oh, my God. Oh, it's breathtaking.
It's just that restraint. I think that
that's a great
you know what
word.
I mean?
The whole movie has restraint.
Yes, exactly. It's such a skilled use of pauses and use of the suspenseful long look.
Yeah.
Just allowing somebody to sit in the horror of it.
In every screening I've ever seen in a movie theater for this movie, now, of course, this could be my misremembering, so let's just be honest about that. But I do feel like what ends up happening is the credits start, and no one moves.
Yep.
And they're all just like, what? And it's truly like the end of the credits, the lights come up in the house, and everyone's like, oh, right. Whereas a lot of movies that I've seen, and you've been there too, where like the second the credits start, everyone gets up and starts moving.
Well, because the story has been told, and this one, they are still telling the story through the credits, man. Good. No matter what is happening.
But in a really interesting way.
Yes, exactly.
I'm glad you liked this movie.
I am glad I did too, and this may fold into my seasonal watching.
Oh, that's awesome.
It just may.
It really should.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be doing this for a few decades more, so yeah. Yeah, we'll probably be around.
I definitely feel like this is one of those movies, too, where every single time I watch it, I notice something else, and it just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
And it does not get worse. Like, I've seen this movie, like I said, this is probably my 10th time.
Yeah.
And you saw me sitting next to you. I was still like, ooh, like enraptured in what was happening. Oh, I do want to mention the tagline of this movie.
All right.
Because I actually have a poster with its original title, which is Silent Night, Evil Night.
Cool.
The picture of the poster is like a wreath, a big wreath around Claire's body with the plastic over it.
Okay.
And the tagline is, if this movie doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight. Which I think is such a great tagline.
Oh my God, that's creepy as hell.
Yeah. And the whole budget for this movie was only $620,000, which is, again, every fucking penny of that is on the screen.
And some things don't cost any money. They cost expertise. Like the skill that the director and the cinematographer have make this look richer than a $625,000 movie.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely 100%.
The quality of acting. Even the set. I mean, I would say the house, however much that cost them, if they spent all $625,000 buying the house or renting it, I mean, that increased it tenfold to have such a play place to be in and to have such an iconic house.
Well, I think you actually hit something that's really important, is the fact that, like, this movie, it doesn't need much. It just needs the skill.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think of, like, what can we put into canon about this?
Right.
I mean, I know it's not a canon movie.
Sure.
But, like, what, as filmmakers, do you steal from this movie? And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, everything.
Everything.
Just everything. Just even, like, the color palette.
Yeah.
Is gorgeous, even when it's muted.
Yep.
But the color palette is, like, breathtaking, and every choice feels intentional.
Yep.
But it doesn't feel forced.
Extraneous.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And every single movement the cinematographer, Reginald Morris, and then Bob Clark worked on together.
Yeah.
Like, everything is just beautiful about it. Like, if you just want to learn how to cut from one scene to the next and have momentum carry forward and continue to carry forward and push the story forward, and then both break and add tension depending on what you need for the moment.
Yeah.
This is a masterclass in filmmaking.
It really is.
And it's one of those movies where I feel like there's a certain class of cinephile who's seen this.
Yeah.
But most people, this is not something that is on
their radar.
And I feel like this is every bit as important to cinematic history as things like Casablanca,
Sure,
as things like Citizen Kane.
Yep.
And I think the techniques in this movie are every bit as good and well crafted as things like Casablanca or Citizen Kane or Jaws or like Psycho or any other classic film that you watch in your film studies classes.
Well, and,
this should be there.
Well, and we talk about, I talked about restraint, and I think that there actually is a story about the script having much more brutal murders.
The murders were brutal.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that not showing almost any of it, showing the result sometimes, but not even dwelling on that is a huge exercise in restraint.
Well, they do the and I think I mentioned this before, the Clint Eastwood thing, where Clint Eastwood has this whole thing about like what you imagine will always be more horrifying than what you see.
Exactly.
And this movie has that. In fact, I would guess that the bloodiest moment in the movie is there is a moment in the movie where you see a bed where somebody was killed on, stripped down, and you see the blood left over on the bed. That's the bloodiest moment of the movie.
I would say so, yeah.
Every other moment of blood, there's just little bits here and there.
Suggestions.
You don't see anything, enter into anything. But it is terrifying.
It is. And I don't know, if you were squeamish or something like that, if you cut out every bit of blood and every dead body in this movie, it would still be absolutely worthwhile to watch every scene, every minute. Other than that, not that you should. I think that people need to be exposed to a lot of different things in cinema. And if you're really serious about it, watch this movie. Yeah, absolutely.
This is the highest recommendation movie I've given so far.
And I'm also surprised at how little we've given away and how much we've raved about this movie, I hope. I hope that everybody can go into this movie, if you've listened to this episode, as fresh as possible.
Another thing that I want to add, as tension-filled as it is, and I don't know if we've made this clear, this movie's also ridiculously funny.
Yeah.
There are so many moments where I, true belly laughed at times.
Yeah.
Everything from the Santa who's angry that he's talking in front of little kids. He's like, what the fuck? I was gonna go with her.
What about when Margot Kidder is giving sips of alcohol to the
little
5-year-old?
Or when Margot Kidder talks about tortoises having sex. It's so good.
McHenry trying to find all the alcohol around the house.
Yep.
Every single time I laughed. Miss Mac.
Miss Mac.
Yeah.
So lovely. I'm so happy you like this movie.
I am too. All right, Nick, what do we got next week?
Next week, we go from Christmas to New Year.
Ooh, that sounds evilly.
It is very evilly. One of my favorite Cannon movies.
Okay.
One that inspired this podcast in many ways, which I'm sure we'll get into on the episode itself.
I would assume.
We are doing 1980s New Year's Evil.
Oh.
One of the early Go-Go Boys Cannon films. So I'm excited for you to see this.
Yeah, me too. And 40-year anniversary, essentially?
No,
or 39?
39 years.
Gosh darn it.
Almost to the day. 39
What have we
years
done?
To the day.
What have we done?
I know.
All right, still.
Next year. I feel like this will be every year. We just watch New Year's Evil.
I think, and see how it ages, like a fine evil wine.
Like a fine evil wine. Oh, boy.
One that's out to kill you.
Yeah.
You know?
Out to kill.
Sounds great. New Year's Evil.
New Year's Evil.
So with that,
we say good night and good Cannon and Merry Black Christmas.
Nobody ever laughs like that in this.
That person did not get me anything this year.
Oh, so what a dick.
He's a monster. So what do we always say, Jay? Give me a present. No. If we don't find it, I'll just cry. Pinky and the Bride
Queen. Norma Bates. Anyway, okay. She was in Romeo and Juliet?
I'm gonna kill you.
They're real and they're spectacular. Soon you'll have something to talk about with Steve Martin if you ever meet him.
Seriously.
Had to stand on his head to compress the thorax in his neck. What?
Dun, 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 dun. I'm a professional.
I'm a real boy.